Episode, I want to show how we can build a mixer that is mixing different audio signals and to sort of control the mixer using sensors on a smartphone. Okay, so the result will be this. Okay, so we have 4 different sounds, and they happen to be a synth pad with different chords. And they are mixed together, and the mix is controlled with the beta orientation of the smartphone. So I think it's good now to understand what we actually have here. So we have 4 different files that I have produced, and if we listen to one of them, it starts straight on and it plays to the end and then it's cut off. So it's no nice crossfades at all. The system here is using a feature that I call ambient audio. And that is used to take any sound file and make smooth loops with that sound file. So it will take the sound file, play it from beginning, but making a smooth fade in at the beginning. When it reaches the end, just before it does that, it will actually start playing a new version of the same audio file, crossfading between the first and the second version of this audio file. And that crossfade takes away the cut that would otherwise have been audible when the sound file would loop. And then it continues doing that. So when the second instance of the audio file is reaching its end, it will be layered with a third version. And the second one is fading out and the third is fading in. And that continues forever. Okay, so that's how an ambient audio works. And you just define what audio file to use. And the files are stored here in the audio folder. That's why we have the audio / and then the file name. Okay, so we have 4 different audio files and they are all put inside an element called mixer. And this is what I call complex element, an element that contains other elements. And that means that we can't do this syntax for the complex element mixer with the / simple ending here. But we need a sort of beginning of the element and an end. So we call that an end tag of this element. And it's important to have the same name on the beginning tag and the end tag. And the end tag should have its / before the element name. That's what we need. And then we could add actually any number of objects inside the mixer and just stack them. And if we wouldn't have done anything with the attributes, like just that, it will take the output of everything found inside the mixer and just connect it together. So the output of the mixer could then be treated as one signal, and that could be routed into a filter or a gain controller or whatever. But now if we introduce the mix attribute here, we can actually mix between the different child elements. And the idea is that if mix is set to 0, I can type it here, that means that we will just hear the first element. And if we set it to 1, we will just hear the last element. And if it's something in between, like 0.5, we will hear the element in the middle. So if we would have had like 5 elements, we would have heard the third element playing. Now when we have a value that is in between 2 elements, that will be a blend of those 2. And that blend can be set with the crossfade range. And the higher the value towards 1, which is the maximum, the broader the range for the combination of the two files. And the more towards 0 we go, the more it will be either this one or that one. So it will actually flip from one file to another one. And if we try to understand what's going on here behind the scenes, you can imagine a mixing console with 4 different channels. And if we set it to 0, the first channel will have its maximum volume and the others will be turned off. And then if we raise the mix value, it will take down the volume of the first channel and raise it on the second. And then lower the second and raise the third. And then lower the third and raise the fourth. That would be true if the crossfade range would have been 1. But now when I set it to 0, it's more like mute buttons. So if I set it mix to 0 and crossfade range to 0, then the first channel would be unmuted, but the other ones would be muted. If I raise it, then suddenly we go over the limit, where we go to the next one, which ought to be like 0.25. And then the first channel is muted and the second channel is unmuted. And we move through the child element with flipping from one to another. And if we do that, then the transition time is interesting, because that kind of muting and unmuting could cause clicks when we turn on and off audio. When we turn it on and off audio, actually. So by introducing the transition time on the mixer, that makes like a soft mute and soft unmute happen when we go through the mix. All right, but how do we connect it to the sensor? Well, we just connect it to a variable, like we have done in the earlier episodes. So if I connect it to $M, it will look for the variable with the name M, as in mix. And that variable reads from the device orientation gamma, which is this axis. And it will read the values from -90 to +90. And it will map whatever incoming values to anything between 0 and 1. So if the angle is -90 degrees, it will map to value 0 for M. And when M is 0, then we will hear the first element. If I turn my phone towards 90 degrees to the right, then it will map to the last value here, which is 1. And 1 would be the last element here. So when M is 1, then we hear the last element playing. And anything in between would happen when we do like that. So that's how the mixer is working.